We're now going to look at Romanticism outside of France. Let's travel to Spain. In Spain, the quintessential example of Romanticism is Francisco de Goya. Now, Francisco de Goya is quite an interesting figure, an amazing and very long, very successful career. He is a contemporary of Jacques-Louis David, meaning that they were born and worked around the same time, but he couldn't be more different than Jacques-Louis David. He started his career as a painting designer for royal tapestries. What? Well, they needed to have, the King of Spain had a workshop that created these giant, expensive tapestries, and there needs to be somebody that designs the imagery that will then be used as a reference. Goya was the artist, and his paintings were then made into tapestries. This is one of his earliest works as a tapestry designer. It's very lighthearted because he was trained during the Spanish Rococo period. So we see pastel colors, we see a simple scene of a beautiful shepherdess and shepherd, and there's no worry or fear of mud or bugs or tearing of things, right? So Rococo. So he starts out as a Rococo style painter for the King of Spain. He becomes an official artist to the Spanish court in the 1780s, and as a member of the royal court, he has exposure to the corruption of the King of Spain and of the government in Spain, and he creates a series of works called, I know, I didn't even introduce this one yet. Hold on. This first. We'll go back to the image. He creates a series of prints called Los Caprichos, which translates to the caprices. The caprices translates to a sudden or unpredictable or erratic behavior of humans. And here I'm showing you just a few of the prints that he made, and they all highlight the caprices or the foolishness, the superstitions, the corruption of the Spanish king and the Spanish people. At this time, the Spanish Empire was rapidly disintegrating, and the people of Spain were suffering under the harsh conditions and corruption of the king and his government. So, and in line with that also, in comparison to what was happening outside of Spain, Spain was seen as something kind of backwards and limited by their lack of education and industry and their reliance on religion. Goya creates this series to criticize these hypocrisies and these superstitions and the foolishness of the government and the people. The one that we're going to look at, in more detail, is this one here. So this is your official artwork. This is called The Sleep of Reason Produces Monsters. It's from Los Caprichos. The title of it, The Sleep of Reason Produces Monsters, is right here on the side of this desk. We see a man who, at this time in 1798, is dressed as a man of a middle class. He's well educated. He's sitting at a desk. He knows how to read and write because there is his pen and his penknife and his papers. But he's fallen asleep at his desk. And in his slumber erupts this horde of nightmarish creatures. We see bats and owls and cats, and they swarm out of the darkness. They invade our space. What is he trying to tell us? I mean, he just said it. The sleep of reason. This man is asleep. Is he the reason? Is he reason and logic and intellect, and he's fallen asleep? And when reason and logic and intellect falls asleep, out come the monsters. Now, monsters being this invading swarm of, well, bats. In terms of iconography, bats are symbols of ignorance. Owls, they can be symbols of wisdom, but they can also be symbols of folly, of trying and failing. Cats, well, cats, think about, have you ever heard a cat in the middle of the night? Kind of horrific sounds they make, right? And then those owls like screeching, and bats. This is not neoclassicism, because this is not emphasizing reason. This is horrific. This is a nightmare. Instead, what we're supposed to be is frightened. Goya is literally telling us, wake up. Wake up. You're not paying attention. We need you to see what is happening. You have the tools. You have the tools of reason and logic and intellect and education. Use them, because the nightmares are coming. Whoa.